common.
Yeah, well, the way our world works today is the manipulation of ignorant people to rip them off. That's the name of the game in the world today. If you're ignorant, you're going to get taken. And we can't wait to see how many ignorant people we're going to rip off in one day and steal everything you got and mislead you into believing things that aren't true because of the use of words.
Yes.
That's why you have to pay an attorney. If you're going to court, you have to pay a lawyer because they have been taught in schools what the words mean and how to speak to the court and how not to speak to the court and what to say and what not to say. Why? Because words are very important. You could go to prison for using the wrong words in a courtroom that you didn't know. And that's why you have to pay an attorney, because he's supposed to know what he can say and what he can't say. And so today we have a system of government which is based on the misuse and the deception of words. And this is why, it's a very big story. And most people never heard it, so that's why most people are not aware of anything going on. And they stay in trouble all their life because they're using terms and words they don't really know where they come from. And they don't know what they mean. But if you go into a court and you use the same terms you use out on the street, you're going to jail because that's not what the words mean in a court. You have to understand that.
It sure seems like with our new president, he's not using words that would belong in a court. Or I was curious what you thought of what's going on with politicians in like our government now.
That's why the opposition want to kill him. That's why they want him dead. That's why they're trying to do whatever they can to kill him, get rid of him, fine him, ticket him, throw him out, get rid of him, kill him, do whatever you got to do, get rid of him. Why? Because he's smart enough to know what the name of the tune is and how it's being played. He's done business with the mafia and La Cosa Nostra in New York, Chicago, and the East Coast, New Jersey. He's worked with the gangs, with the organized criminals who run construction on the East Coast. So he knows how the game is played. He knows who the players are. He knows what the words mean.
He knows who to pay.
Once he understands all of it, how it works, that's why his enemies want him dead. They want him out because he's too smart. He knows what he's doing, and he knows who the criminals are, and he knows what he's going to do with them, and they know it. So that's why they can't stand him. They want him dead. They've actually said that in public, that someone should kill him. Why? Because he is serious trouble to world criminality, to organized crime. He is a horrible and terrible threat to deal with criminals. He knows who they are. He's paid them. They work for him. And it's just an incredible situation that we have to put up with in this country, because organized crime cannot stand Donald Trump, because he's a very powerful, wealthy individual who has shown himself to be highly intelligent, very crafty, knows what he's doing, and that's why the real powers that be in this world put him into office. He's a president today because some very extremely extraordinary, powerful people in this world want him to be president because they're tired of the silly-ass bullshit that's been going on for the last 50 to 60 years in Washington, D.C., with a bunch of communists, Nazis, SS, Gestapo, mentally deranged morons who are out ripping off people, children, raping children, raping people.
Wow.
Tell us how you really feel. I agree with you. What do you think of all the what's his name, that pedophile that killed himself in his
pedophilia?
Cell? Epstein. Yeah, what do you think of Epstein and the Epstein group and everybody?
Epstein, he's just a normal guy doing what he does. He's like all the rest of them. They're all a bunch of pedophiles and murderers and bloodletting murderers. We call them politicians today. But if you understood what was really going on since the fall of the Roman Empire in Europe and the coming of America on the world scene, you would understand what's really happening, and you know how desperate we really are. But most people have no idea in the world what the Roman Empire really was and what's going on with the Roman Empire today in America.
Yeah,
are we the
as long as the people are ignorant, ill-informed, unread, dim-witted, and screwy and dopey, and watching silly-ass television and watching a silly-ass ball game, bouncing a ball, kicking a ball, throwing a ball.
Agree. I've always thought that.
The whole world is taken with ball games. Everybody's got to play with the ball.
It's just like in
ball,
Rome.
they kick a ball, a football, and
in the stadium,
and bowling ball. And,
in the stadium.
So
what would happen?
The reason why we love ball games.
Yeah, the reason why.
The reason why we humans love ball games is because animals love to play with a ball. You throw a ball out in the yard, the dog will play with it for hours. You throw it into the kitchen where all the cats are, and the cats will play with the ball for hours and bounce it around and chase it around and have fun and entertain themselves. Well, that's the same thing we humans do. We love to watch a ball game. We like to see the ball being picked or thrown. We go to the ball game, never realizing for a moment the world you live in don't give a damn about the ball game. They care about raping you and your children, stealing everything you've got, and crawling on their knees and kissing their ring. The Queen Mum rides around in a gold chariot, giving everybody the finger. And we love that. The Americans just love to see the Queen Mum and Prince Charles, those mentally deranged, murderous, bloodletting Nazis and fascists and morons who ride around in gold chariots because they know the people are regime. So damn stupid that they will crawl on their knees to their masters, and they know that, and they know Americans are really at the top of the list of being ignorant, stupid, ill-informed, red, and pitifully stupid. And that's who we are today, and that's where we are today, and there's nothing going to change. That's who we are, and that's where we've come from, and that's what we are today in America. We're a bunch of slaves.
Because we're uneducated.
All the other countries
knows that.
What about Canada? We're the same here, pretty much.
Well, you're beneath us. We're better off than you are, and you're beneath us.
Yeah, we got the Queen right in here. Crown land. It's all Crown land.
Queen, and she's ripping off children in Canada and riding around her gold chariot and giving everybody the finger and flipping her cigarettes on you. And the people love it. For some reason, the human race loves to crawl on their knees to the emperor. We love to crawl on our knees to our masters. I think it's a disgusting situation, but there's nothing we can do about it because we humans love it. And after all, this is a democratic world. And democratic means communism. Marxist-Leninist Soviet communism is where we get the concept of democracy. Why? Because all communist countries back in the 30s and 40s when the Soviet Union was first founded, all the countries the Soviet communists were taking over, they renamed all the countries the People's Democratic Republic. It was the People's Democratic Republic of China. the People's Democratic Republic of North Korea, the People's Democratic Republic of Cuba. Get it? The People's Democratic Republic. That's why we have a Democratic Party, because it's the People's Democratic Club. And democratic is a term which is used for the Soviet communism. That's what we've got going on in America today. We've got the Republicans and the Democrats. But if anyone even understood what the word Democrat means, where it came from, you'd be ashamed to call yourself a Democrat. It's an incredible story of treason, lies, deception, and how they manipulated the human family into buying into all the criminality that they play with today. It's Washington, D.C.
What do you think the Church of Rome is, and the Catholics, I know you talked about that before, have to do with the setup of the governments and the way things are now? Is that part of it?
Well, the way things are now, the United States is run by Jesuits. Have you ever heard the term Jesuit?
Yes.
Of course. I was raised Catholic until I listened to you on the Art Bell show.
Yeah, well, most people may have heard the term Jesuit, but they have no coverage of what it means. I, on the other hand, have studied Jesuitism for some 60 years. I know what it means. I know what it's all about.
Yeah, tell us. Our new pope's Jesuit. It's the first Jesuit pope, right?
Say it again.
The pope is Jesuit.
Pope Frank is a Jesuit.
Of course, he's a Jesuit. Yeah.
Could you tell us about what the Jesuits are?
Yes, they have given us, the Jesuits have worked very long and hard and very, very hard. They have worked hard to give to the world Marxist-Leninist communism. They have worked very difficult, very hard. They have spent a lot of time and effort and money to give you Nazism in Germany. They have promoted the Jewish people to be God's chosen people, while at the same time they're promoting Antonism all around the world, which gives us communism, Marxism, Nazism, fascism, Judaism, Christianity. All of the major religions of the world are all nothing more than Antonism. Most people don't even know how to spell Antonism, much less what it is.
Break that word down. Let's break that word down. What does it mean exactly?
Antonism. Antonism. The Jewish God today in Judaism, we're told that the name of the God of Jews is so holy, so profoundly important and holy, that we cannot use it. If Gentiles and ordinary slobs like us, or world-class schlubs like us, if we use the name of the Almighty God, then we're using it in vain. And you're going to get in trouble for using God's name in vain, because you're not supposed to use his name. He's so far above you, you're not even supposed to even know his name. And so only the Jews know the God's name, and they're God's chosen people. And so you find out that in Judaism there is a name for their God which you can use, which even ignorant Gentiles like us are allowed to use. But it's a substitute name for their God. You can't use God's actual name, but you can use a substitute name. That substitute name is used all over the world. Jews know it, and many Gentiles know the name for God, which is a substitute name in Judaism. It's called the Tetragrammaton. Tetragrammaton is 4 Hebrew letters on the altar of all synagogues on the earth, period. No matter what country you're in, if there's a Jew in town and there's a synagogue, when you go into the synagogue in any country, you will always see on the altar the tetragrammaton, the word for God in the Gentile world. For we, ignorant, goofy, unemployed, tree trimmer, knuckle-dragging, goofball, people who think about religion or philosophy or any of this stuff, we don't know anything about the occult or hidden meanings behind words, terms, and symbols.
No, we don't.
But the people who run this planet do. They know what's going on. So we have a name for God we can use. It's called the Tetragrammaton. Have you ever heard the term Tetragrammaton in relation to the Jewish Judaism?
Yeah. Yes, I've heard of that. It's
okay.
In the occult. I've also heard that mentioned.
Right. Tetragrammaton is a name of God, which we knuckle-dragging Gentiles, ignorant, ill-informed Gentiles can use the name of the Jewish God. His name is a substitute name called Tetragrammaton. Tetra is 4. Gram, G-R-A-M-M, is a letter like grammar. Letters like A, B, C, and D are grammar. Tetragrammaton, A-T-O-N. Go back and look at it. Tetragrammaton is a substitute name for God because God is Adon. But they don't want you knowing that. You're not supposed to know that the Jewish God is Adon. Today, it's not really Adon. It is misrepresented as the Adon. Today, Judaism is actually worshiping the planet Saturn. Saturn is the god of the Jews today. But fortunately, most people on the earth have not got the education to understand where religions have come from, what religious terms mean, what the words mean. The very word God is simply dogs backwards. Most people don't know that. And so once you start doing some really serious research and start sharing with the public the things that you're learning, you're going to find out you're opening up a basket full of worms. You better keep your mouth shut because you're going to get killed eventually. And so, or thrown into prison. Something's going to happen to you because you know things you're not supposed to know. and top of the list is the connection between Judaism, communism, Nazism, and Christianity. All 4 of those institutions, Judaism, Christianity, Nazism, communism, fascism, are all one thing. It's all the application of Antonism. The Anton is, as I said, the Jewish god Tetragrammaton. And so we're talking about Aton is the sun. The sun god of Egypt was called Aton. Later on, they changed it to Aten, A-T-E-N, the Aten. But originally it was A-T-O-N, the Aton. Go to a dictionary, look up A-T-O-N, and it will tell you that's the major sun god of Egypt, was called Aton. And so the Jews picked up to worship the Egyptian sun god and called him Tetragrammaton. And so today the Jews are worshiping the sun god Aton. But Judaism has changed quite a bit since the beginning of AD, because there was no, I don't believe for a moment that there was anything to do with Judaism before AD. There was no BC. There was no. It's just an amazing event when you finally do the research.
I don't know. There was no BC.
No, there was no Judaism. Plenty of BC, but there was no Judaism. Judaism was dreamt up by the Knights Templars, by a Masonic order in Europe called the Knights Templars. They dreamt up the idea of Judaism being an ancient religion based on the worship of the Almighty God. And they promoted that stuff in Europe so that the Europeans actually got to believe that. And then from Europe comes America, and now America is believing that too, that there was ancient Israel, and ancient Israel did this, and ancient Israel did that, and this happened in ancient Israel. And point of fact, there was no ancient Israel. It never existed, period.
I hear what you're saying. Okay.
Oh, God.
It's just in the books.
What the hell is that?
The book.
Yeah. Who wrote the book? Who are all these people that are really smart and in charge in this world today? I mean, the people that go to the Bohemian Grove?
Masonic. They're Freemasonic Masons.
The Freemasons?
The Masonic orders. And the Masonic orders are a front for the Jesuit group, for the Jesuit operation in the Catholic Church. Freemasonry came from the Catholic Church. Today it is run by Jesuits. The 32nd and the 33rd degrees, you need to go back and find out where all that terminology comes from and why the 33 degrees and 32 degrees, and the Masonic order in Europe coming from the Catholic Church and the Knights Templars, of which Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade and Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, that's what they're talking about. Steven Spielberg was a lot of things, but stupid wasn't one of them. He always has the Knights Templars involved with all the major catastrophes of the world. The Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was a crusade for the cup of Christ, for the Holy Grail, the cup of Christ. That's the most holiest symbol in all of Christianity, is the cup of Jesus. Was supposed to drink for the Last Supper, the cup of Jesus. No, it's Krator. Krator. Go look it up in an encyclopedia and a dictionary and spend some time researching all this nonsense. You will find there is a constellation. It's not in the zodiac. There are plenty of other constellations, but there are 12 major ones we have. We call them constellations of the zodiac. And the constellations of the zodiac are what you call God's kingdom. So when we pray for God's kingdom, you're praying for the constellations of the zodiac. And it's a very big story. Once you begin to see it for the first time, it finally dawns on you, like the sun's waking you up. It will finally dawn on you what's been going on for thousands of years you didn't know anything about. And that's why I am doing what I'm doing, because I'm 80 years old. I'm not going to be here much longer. And after 60 years, I finally figured it out. It took me 60 years of comparing notes and comparing facts and seeing and watching the whole world, how it operates and where the money comes from and who runs it and who runs the governments and what the UN is and where we come from and where we're going. And it finally occurred to me that as Christians and Jews, communists, Nazis, Christians and Jews, and Thomism is a very ancient, profoundly hidden occult operation going on in the world today, and most people are not up for understanding it. People mostly have never even heard of such a thing. They have no idea.
But we're all being controlled by it, and we don't know, but we're being controlled by it.
They're being controlled by something they have no idea in the world where it came from. They have no idea why the U.S. is called the U.S., and they have no idea that we're no longer the United States of America. In point of fact, we're no longer called the United States of America. Most people don't know that. If you go into a court, you can't not say in a court that you have rights as an American, because you don't have any right. You're not an American. You're a U.S. citizen, which means you are not an American. Ask any good lawyer. any good judge, any federal people on the federal level, and they'll tell you, you are not an American. You're not living in the United States of America. You're living in a whole different world that we've never told you. You're not supposed to know about it. And if you do know about it, they'll throw you in jail if you talk about it. But I talk about it because I don't give a damn. I'm 80 years old, and I'm not going to be here much longer. So I'd like to
You're just as feisty as ever.
Find out.
This is great. What? I said, you're just as feisty as ever. This is a great interview. I'm glad you sound fired up. This is good. You want to take a tiny break and get something to drink for the last half hour?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
What I would like to say is that when you study something for 60 years and it finally dawns on you what you've been looking at for 60 years from every possible viewpoint, and when it all finally comes together in your mind and you finally see how this trick is working and how it works and what it means and why the United States has an eagle, the bald eagle, why it has a pyramid on the back of the dollar bill with the all-seeing eye at the top, why the eagle is pointed in one direction, and why above the eagle's head on the dollar bill is a Star of David. You need to wake up and understand United States is no longer the United States of America. We are not a republic. We are a democracy. The word democracy gives us our concept of world communism. We are a Marxist-Leninist Soviet communist operation in the Western world. We're called the United States. We're a democracy, the People's Democratic Republic of America. That's why we're in trouble today. And that's why we're going to lose our country by the end of this year. I believe that we're going to see some terrible, horrible upheavals in politics in October of this year. Write it down and remember it was Jordan Maxwell that told you. We're going to see some terrible things happening in America in October. The last week of September, the first couple of weeks in October is going to be a horrible tragedy is going to hit this country. Whatever it is, it's going to be like 9/11. It's going to be a horrible, incredible political tragedy. And we're going to feel it, and the whole world is going to feel it. Everybody on the earth is going to feel what's going to happen in America in October. But nobody seems to give a damn. What?
Well, we have it here on the radio, and I give a damn. We care.
This is awful. Don't we? Bad news.
What?
What he's telling us.
Watch what's going to happen in October.
There is something bad going to happen then.
Something very, very bad is coming. It's on its way. You don't see it. Most people don't see it because we've been fed a bunch of lies and deception in the media, the television and radio and television and most newspapers and magazines is a media, and the media is making sure the Americans don't hear any of this. Let them keep doing what they're doing, like don't disturb the cattle. They're out there chewing on their cud, and they're out there feeding their young. Don't tell them that they're going up this ramp tomorrow and they're going to be working for McDonald's as a hamburger. Don't tell them that. Keep them ignorant and ill-informed and unread, watching a basketball game and watching to see who's going to get thrown out of the game and who's going to win, who's going to lose. All of that nonsense goes on.
Is there anything we can do? Is there anything we can do?
You think that
the only thing you can do is save yourself. You cannot help the country. You cannot save humanity. It is impossible to do because humanity doesn't want to help. People love to be ignorant and stupid. They love to talk about how much they don't know. people love to be ignorant and stupid. They love when they have masters who control them. Why? It's a hangover from the time when you were born. You were a little kid. You depended on your mom and dad to take care of you, to feed you, and to tell you what you can do and what you can't do. And as you grow up, you find out that's the way the earth works. That's the way the whole world works. We have a mom and a dad who we call government. And the government will tell you what you can do and what you can't do.
Yeah.
They will feed you, they will clothe you, and then they own you. And the law is called parent patriae. Go look it up in a dictionary. It's called parent patriae. Parent patriae is a federal law in the United States that most people don't even know how to spell it or how it's understood to be used. But we have a law in this country called parent patriae, which is a federal law that means the United States government is your parent. It owns you. You are an animal. You're not considered a man or a woman. All U.S. citizens are not considered to be a man or a woman. Why? Because in government language, there is a magazine published by the United States in Chicago. It's called the Chicago, what is it called? Styles
Tribune?
Magazine. The Styles Magazine. It's published by the United States government. And in the Styles Magazine, it's a booklet. It's a booklet called Styles Booklet. You can order it from the government, the U.S. government. There's a Styles magazine for the United States and there's a Styles magazine for England. And the Styles magazine, most people have never heard of it and don't see any value in it, except federal judges and the Supreme Court. They care because they know what it means. Americans, we're not supposed to know nothing. We just go out and work and watch a basketball game and keep your mouth shut.
What's in the Styles magazine? Do you get it?
Styles magazine is published by the United States government. It is a magazine which has all of the words that federal governments use and what they actually, in fact, mean. So if you're going to be a federal judge, you better go back to school and read the Styles magazine. If you're going to be a federal attorney and work with the federal government, you better understand what the words mean. Because if you go into a federal court using the same terms that you use out on the street, you're going to jail. Because the Styles magazine will tell you it don't mean the same thing in a federal court as what you think it means out on the streets. Well, that's not what it actually means in law. And so that's why you need to have an attorney. You need to get a lawyer who has been trained in the Styles magazine to know what to say and what not to say. And if you say the wrong things, you go to jail.
Jordan?
So I'm just saying, wake up. There's a whole world out there you've never heard of before, that you've never heard of before. You don't know how it works, and the people who are running it know that. And that's why they're taking advantage of you. How many people, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not professing to be a lawyer, and I don't know anything about being a lawyer, and I wouldn't be one if you forced me. But if you understand how law works, let me give you an example of how ignorant we are. When a cop pulls you over, if you're out in traffic and you get pulled over by a cop, he walks up to the side of your car and he pulls out a checkbook and he's writing a ticket. He has the ticket, not you. He's filling out the ticket, not you. When he's through filling out the ticket, he signs it. Then he hands it to you, and you sign it. And now you're expected to pay that ticket. It's like when you go into Sears. You're going to buy a pair of shoes. You're going to get a ticket to pay for those shoes. And you're expected to pay it because you're the one that got the shoes, so you're expected to pay the ticket. Well, that's what happens when a cop pulls you over. He's giving you a ticket. And it's called a ticket in commerce. It's a piece of business. So you're getting a ticket in commerce, and he is writing out the ticket, then he signs the ticket, then you are a co-signer. You are a co-signer in a ticket in commerce, which means if you want to buy something you don't have, and you may not be able to pay for it, if I go in and co-sign for you, that means if you don't pay the ticket, pay for whatever it is you're getting, I have to. Why? Because I co-signed for you. I am what is known as an undersigner. I signed under your name, so I'm a co-signer. Well, when you're given a ticket by the cop, you are a co-signer. And all you've got to do, I'm not suggesting anybody do anything. I'm telling you, I'm just educating you. I'm not suggesting you do anything because you'll go to prison. You'll go to jail if you get too smart and know how to operate. You'll go to jail. They'll put you into prison if you try and do anything about what I am telling you. I'm just trying to educate you how the system works. When you sign a ticket with a cop, you're a co-signer. Therefore, if you take that ticket, photocopy it, and fill out an affidavit in front of a notary, and then send it to the Secretary of State in the state in which you live, and tell the Secretary of State that I have made a mistake and I would like to change this. I didn't know I was co-signing on this ticket. I didn't realize that, and I don't want to co-sign. I don't intend to co-sign. The Secretary of State will take that ticket and give it to the treasurer, for the state treasurer, and he will then send it to the police department in the city in which that ticket was written, and the cop has to pay the ticket because it's his ticket. He's the one that signed it.
Yeah, I get it.
He has to pay the ticket. Did you know about that? Did anyone ever tell you about that? No, Jordan Maxwell.
Have you done that? Have you done that, Jordan?
No, I said I would never ever do it because I know other things that are going on too. But I do know that because I've seen people do it. And I saw the cop when he came to the door at my friend's house, and he was banging on the door like a fool, banging on the door, not knocking, but banging on it. And my friend goes to the door, and he's ranting and raving. This cop is ranting and raving on my friend's front porch, saying, "What the hell is this? I've got to pay the $350 ticket. I got a wife and kids. I can't afford this." And my friend says, "You go to hell, fool. You're giving it to me. You don't care about me and my wife and children. You don't care about me. You just giving the ticket to make money." Well, I turned and gave it back to you, fool, so you go pay it and get off my porch before I call the cops. And so I know it works. I've seen it happen. I've seen the cops have to pay the ticket and rent and raving and driving off like a fool because they have to pay the ticket themselves.
Can we drastically change the subject?
Say that again.
I was wondering if we could ask you about some ancient stuff. Like, I was curious if you thought what you thought about Atlantis and the Eye of the Sahara. Was Atlantis real? When do you think aliens first came to our planet? Do you think they did? That kind of stuff. Before you're out of here,
I think Atlantis actually, in fact, existed, and I think Atlantis is what we talk about and Christians talk about the flood of Noah's day, Noah and the flood. That was Atlantis, because it says in the Bible. It says that it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Scientists will tell you if it rained all over the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, it would not come anywhere near covering the highest mountain. The highest mountain is in Mount Everest. 40 days and 40 nights of rain would flood the valley, but it wouldn't even come near getting to the top of Mount Everest. Because that kind of water, if it went to the top of Mount Everest, where would that water go? If it's all over the earth at the depth of Mount Everest, where did the water go? Did it all evaporate out there into space and gone? No. Well, where did the water go? If it covered the highest peak, like the Bible says, no. Go back and read it for the first time. Go back and read it, and it says in the Scriptures, in the New Testament, it talks about in the Old Testament talks about the flood of Noah's day, and it says it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, and the flood. And what was the term? I haven't used that term in years. The floodgates of the deep broke open. It's called the floodgates of the deep broke open. And when the floodgates of the deep broke open, the Bible says, then the whole world experienced a major catastrophe. So what is being said in the Old Testament about the flood of Noah's day, 40 days and 40 nights it rained, and then the floodgates of the deep broke open in an earthquake. It broke open. Something happened on the bottom of the ocean where it was so terrible, it was an earthquake. And the what do they call them today? The
tsunamis?
Oh, what's the term that they use today?
Tsunami?
Well, yeah, it's a tsunami, but what caused it is the breaking up. Is the two.
The
plates.
two crusts?
The tectonic plates.
Yeah, the two plates, the tectonic plates of the Earth.
Sorry.
If those plates broke open, that would cause a tsunami big time.
Yeah,
on the oceans of the world.
Displacement.
You're talking about a major break on the Earth's crust. And
Crustal
that would cause a tsunami to wipe over the whole world, and we would have a flood of Noah's day. Yeah, not because of the 40 days and 40 nights of rain. No, that's just going to make things sloppy. It's not going to destroy the world and have to save all the animals on an ark. Besides, there was no ark. There was the wet moon. The wet moon in Egypt was called the Ark of Noah. Ark of Noah was the wet moon in Egypt. And so we took that Ark of Noah and break it down and call it the Ark of Noah, Noah's Ark. There was no Noah's Ark. It was Ark of Noah, meaning the wet moon. When the moon is in the lower quarter, if you've ever seen the moon at night in the lower quarter, it looks like a canoe. It looks like a little boat.
Yep,
that's true.
And the Vikings built their ships based on the Ark of Noah, the wet moon. And so the lower quarter of the moon is called Ark of Noah, not Ark of Noah. No, Ark of Noah, the wet moon. And so, my God, I could sit here and talk for the next 8 hours or 10 hours, and I can show you pictures and documents showing you where all the religions of the world have come from, how the governments have used the world religions to finance themselves, to manipulate the public, to keep you ignorant, ill-informed, and unread, so that they can use you to make money. Your body, most people don't know your very physical body is a security on the New York Stock Exchange. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, I've heard about that.
Did you know that you're worth about $7 to $9 million right now on the New York Stock Exchange? Did anyone ever tell you that? No, Jordan Maxwell's telling you that. Go back and do some homework and find out that your body, your physical body, the body of your wife and husband is on the stock exchange in New York, and you're worth $7 to $9 million.
That should make you feel good,
and
Mike.
Yet you're complaining about you can't pay for the house, you can't pay for your car, you're going to lose your home. You're worth $9 million on the New York Stock Exchange. Wake up.
Can you Can you cash yourself in?
So many times.
That's what I was thinking. Could use that money right now.
Say it again.
Can you cash yourself in?
Yeah, well, see,
Can you sell yourself and get the money? How do we get the money?
You cannot get the money. You can't get the money. You can use it as a credit to pay off a bill. You can't get the cash, but you can use it as a credit to pay off your home, to pay off your car, your airplane, your jet, whatever it is you got. $9 million should cover it. It's on the New York Stock Exchange. You contact any of the big stock houses that keep track on different stocks and how much they're worth, and call them and tell them that you were cleaning your grandmother's garage or cleaning her attic, and you found a stock certificate, and you wanted to know if it's of any value. And then they say, yeah, it may be. Give us a number. Give us a stock number. You look on the back of your Social Security card on the bottom. There's a series of numbers on the bottom of your Social Security card on the back. Give the stock company in New York that number. It's letters and numbers and letters on the back of your Social Security. And they will put it in the computer and come back and say, yes, that belongs to so-and-so. And they give you your name. And then you say, well, how much is it worth? They'll say about $9 million or $7 million, $7 to $9 million.
And then Wolfman could pay off his jet.
Dude, I don't live in the States.
So then
oh, that's right.
Now
you live in Canada. Damn it.
See, I'm telling you things that you're not supposed to know.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense to you?
How about in
You're
Canada?
You're not supposed to know any of this.
Does Canada have the same system? Like our social insurance numbers work the same way up here? Do you know?
You are a security for the body social. That's why when you retire, you go home after work, you're retiring from your job. Well, when you retire for good, you get social security because your body is a security worth $9 million to the corporation called United States Corporation that was incorporated in 1871 and back east on the East Coast. It was a corporation that was founded. Most people don't know that we're not living in the United States of America. That's why you don't have any rights, because Americans have rights here, but you don't have any rights because you're not living in America. You're not living in the United States of America. You're living in a corporation like Sears, General Motors, General Electric, Exxon. You're living in a corporation. The corporation is called the United States Corporation. It was incorporated in Delaware. It's a Delaware corporation incorporated in 1871. And you are, if you call yourself a U.S. citizen, that means you are an employee of a foreign corporation, because it's a foreign corporation to being an American. You were originally supposed to be an American under the United States of America. You're not under the United States of America because it was overthrown during the Civil War. After the Civil War in America, we were a lot of things, but United was not one of them. One half of the country just got through killing the other half. So we weren't united. So it was decided by the bankers, since we're not united anymore, we will no longer call ourselves officially United States of America. We're not united. We were at war with each other. So therefore, it was decided by the people who run this country that we will take the United States and make it into a company, a corporation. And so they called it the United States Incorporated. And you are an employee of a foreign corporation because it's foreign to an American. You were supposed to be an American who had American freedom, but you don't have any freedom. What?
Do you think it's easier for us to learn the truths of these truths now that we have computers and the internet and WikiLeaks and stuff like that? Do you think that this stuff will be shown to the public more now or not?
As long as I'm alive, people will have an opportunity to learn. But when the master dies, I will take with me to the next world. I will take with me the 60 years of intense research I have done on the world we live in. I'll take it with me, and you will never, ever hear about this again as long as you live.
What do you think of WikiLeaks?
I am the one that...
Yeah.
Say this again?
I agree.
What do you think of WikiLeaks?
How many times have you heard this kind of information to start with? Well, that will tell you how many times you're going to hear it after I'm gone. It's going to be wiped out forever. Forever and ever. No human on the earth will ever be told how this crap really works. How the banks actually own you. The government owns you. This is why you have to do your duty to your family, to your mom and dad. You do your duty. You join the United States military. The military-industrial complex is your parent. You owe your body to the corporation called United States Incorporated. My Lord.
It's depressing.
There's so much. It's not only depressing, it's frightening when you finally see it. This is why when I see you come out of a restaurant at 2 o'clock in the morning with some woman, and the next day I call you and I say to you, you know that girl you were out with last night? Yeah. Well, you better watch out for her because she's bad company. And you tell me, go mind your own business. What do you mean, business? Company. And then I find out you're going to get married, she's going to be your partner. What is all that about? Business, company, partner? That sounds like commerce. That sounds like a business. That's right, it is a business.
It's a business transaction.
You're going to have to get a marriage license. You're going to have to get a marriage license.
Yeah,
because it's a business. And if you don't like it, then you can't get married until you get a license because it's a business. You are a corporation, and she is a corporation. So two corporations, Ford Motor Company and General Motors, are getting together to build a new kind of car. That's fine if they both corporations are up for it. That's fine, as long as you talk to your attorneys, your corporate attorneys, and they talk it over with the government. And it's all laid out on contracts, how you're going to split the money and how you're going to split the cost and everything. And the government's going to be ultimately in charge because they're the ones giving you the license to operate. So that's why you say mind your own business.
Yeah, it's a
would
business.
Would you advise against marriage?
No, I'm just saying if you get married, it's a business. So if it don't work out, you're not going to God. You're going to court. Bring your house and your car and anything else you own that will cost anything. Bring it with you because it's a business.
That's right.
It's just a piece of business. It's called commerce. Look up the word commerce. Commerce you think is a business. No, look it up in a law dictionary. Commerce is sex. Sex is considered under law in America to be sex. Period. Sex is a business. It may be a bad business. It may be a monkey business. But thank God who you're sleeping with is none of my business. And who I live with is none of your business. We're talking business. And that's what the word commerce is. The word commerce is sex in business. That's why you have to have a license if you're going to get married, because you're going to be taking care of some business. Unless, of course, you screw up and the business is going to take care of you. And you're going into court.
Taking care of business.
And so if you go to court, why are you going into court? It's because you play tennis on a court. It's because you play basketball on a court. Why do you play tennis on a court? Because that's the way it's played. How do you play tennis on a court? With a racket. You play tennis with a racket. Why? Because you're playing it on a court. And the court itself is a racket. That's why they call it playing with a racket.
It's
You need to wake up and understand how deep this hole really goes, how deep this stuff really is, where these different religions of the world have come from, different conceptual realities we call governmental systems come from, what the terms and the symbols of Washington, D.C. mean, what the Washington, D.C., the what is it called, the Washington Monument, which is an Egyptian obelisk. Look it up in a dictionary and look up what the Egyptian obelisk called Washington Monument represents.
Is it a phallic
The Washington
symbol?
Monument, if you look it up in a dictionary, you will see Washington Monument is called an Egyptian obelisk. It is a symbol of a male erection.
That's what I was thinking.
The
I don't know
symbol
why
of the male erection. Say it again.
It's amazing how.
Yeah. That's what I.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what he said.
It's an erection. That's what I said. Yeah.
And the symbol of the male erection. The symbol of the male erection connects directly with the oval office, the female ovaries. It's an oval-shaped office for the female ovaries, which the male erection is dealing with. The female ovaries and the male erection. That's why it's a sacred symbol in America. The Washington Monument is a male phallic, and it's an erection. And that's why we have something called steeples on churches. Churches have steeples. Look up the word steeple. Do some research and find out what the word steeple means. Steeple is a male erection on churches.
Yeah, I heard about this before. I think it was from you on another show, but yeah, that's pretty wild stuff. It's all, everyone's worshiping dicks.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's true, yeah.
That's why you have the young boys being put on an altar. They're called altar boys. They're put on the altar to be worshipped.
Yeah.
It's an incredible story, what's going on with the altar boys in the church. But it shouldn't surprise anyone if you knew what the word church means. People talk about going to church, have no idea what the word church comes from, what it means, and where it came from, and why the priests wear long black robes. The long black robes are what you wear when you go to college and university and you're graduating. You wear a black robe and a square mortarboard. The square mortarboard is a Catholic, Roman Catholic symbol.
What does church mean again? I forget the word church. Where does that come from?
Church comes from the word Circe. During the Middle Ages, during the 1300s, when the Pope Innocent was a hell of a name, Pope Innocent. There ain't never been an innocent Pope. But the Pope, incidentally, is called the Holy Father. He's the Holy Father, and he also, why is he called the Holy Father? Because he represents God on the earth. He is the vicar of Christ. He operates as the vicar of Christ. He represents God. That's why he's called the Holy Father. He is the Godfather. Get it? In Rome, the Godfather.
The Godfather, yes. I get it.
My God, we need to wake up.
But church comes from Circe, which is a Greek goddess, Circe, and what did she represent again?
Yeah, Circe. Yeah, Circe was a goddess in the Middle East, and when the Crusaders went into the Middle East, the Crusaders, when they were sent into the Middle East to chase the Islamic world out of Jerusalem, the troops that went in representing the Pope, they learned a lot of things about the people from the Middle East. They learned how they eat, they learned what they drink, they learned how they lived, they learned their customs, they learned about their money, they learned about their politics. So the the Crusaders learned a lot when they were in the Middle East about their enemy. So one of the most important things that Knights Templars, the military for the Vatican that was in the Middle East during the Crusades, the one thing they did learn and learned a lot about was the religion of the Middle East. And the religion of the Middle East at that time was based on a goddess named Circe, and she was called Mother Circe. Well, Circe, when the Knights Templars came back to Europe, back into Europe, into Italy, into Rome, when they came back, they brought the worship of Circe with them. And they started talking about it and passing it around, and finally everybody was into worshiping Circe. And Circe was where we get the word circle from Circe, circus and circle. That's why Christianity is based on the triune God. That's why we have a three-ring circus. From the three circles of the religion of Christianity is Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. But that's based on the triune God concept that's always been on the earth. In India, it was called Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. And in Egypt, it was called Osiris, Isis, Horus. In Judaism, in Judaism, they have the same triune God, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And in Christianity, they got Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. It's all just a business. It's all a manipulation of words and terms. And so when the Knights Templars came back from the Middle East, they ended up in Scotland. They didn't like what was going on in Rome and controlling Britannia, so they went into Scotland. They became known as the Scottish Rite Freemasonry, or the Knights Templars of the Catholic Church coming back into Scotland. And so in Scotland, they started promoting the idea of the worship of Circe. And Circe was the name of the goddess in the Middle East. And Circe became known as Circe, C-E-R-E-S, Circe, Mother Circe. And Mother Circe became Circe in Scottish is church in English. So if you're Christian in Scotland during the 1400s, if you were a Christian in Scotland, you went to, and get up in the morning, you go to Circe. And she was called Mother Circe because of the feminine goddess. So Mother Circe is another name in Europe, in England, called church. Church comes from Circe. And so therefore you have Mother Circe, you got Mother Church. Mother Church is the female goddess, Circe. And so the priests wore the female robes, just like the judges today. They wear a female robe. And when the judge walks out in the black robe is the robe of Circe, but the black robe is the robe of Saturn. Saturn was called the god of the black robe. And today, Saturn is, of course, the god of the Jews. The god of the Jews is Saturn. And that's why Saturn was called in the land of Phoenicia, Cana, the land of Canaanites, which we call Israel today. They were called Cana. And in the land of Cana, the planet Saturn was called El, E-L. And so the people we call Hebrews, when they were in Egypt, they learned the worship of Isis. Isis was a goddess in Egypt. So they learned all about the worship of Isis. They became very proficient in the worship of Isis, the people we call Hebrews. Then when they left out and they went north into Palestine, they encountered when they were worshiping Isis, when Pharaoh Akhenaten came into power, he changed the worship in Egypt to the worship of the sun god, Amun, A-M-E-N -R-A, Amun Ra. Amun-Ra is AMEN-RA. We put a Y on it, makes it sun ray. No, it was the sun god Ra, not Ray. And so
that's where the word
learned all about the worship of Isis.
So
and
that's where the
all
word
about the worship of
the word amen.
Say it again.
That's where the word amen comes in.
That's right. So at the end of your prayers, you say amen. Why? Because you're praying to the ancient sun god, Amen-Ra. He is the God of the sun. That's why we say Jesus is God's son. He's our risen Savior. Of course, he's your risen Savior. The sun don't come up, we're dead in 3 weeks.
See, I noticed that when I was a kid. I told my parents that this word amen doesn't make sense. And I look into it, and it's an Egyptian god's name. Why are we saying that? And that's not
right.
what it. And I was right. I figured that out when I was a kid. I said, this does not make sense.
That's right. Now it makes sense when you're as an intelligent adult. You go back into history, and you find out that the sun god was called Amun-Ra. Amun-Ra or Amun-Re.
Yeah, that's what I told my folks. I said, this is an Egyptian god right here. I found Amun-Ra, and this is how you spell it, and that's the meaning of the word amen. It can't mean anything else. So why are we saying this?
No.
Yeah.
That's because Amen-Ra was the sun god of Egypt. And so Jesus is God's son, S-U-N. There was no man named Jesus. Jesus never walked the earth. There was no man Jesus. He never lived. But it's a story. It's called the greatest story ever told. The greatest story ever told. I don't care about stories. I want to know the truth. The truth is Jesus never lived. That's why it's going to be very difficult for him to make a big comeback. You can't make a big comeback if you've never been anywhere to start with. So how is Jesus going to come back to save the world if he's never been here to start with? He's not coming back. He'd have to show up for the first time if it's an actual man coming back to rule the world. No, it's not an actual man. It's a sun god.
And horizon.
And the sun god was called...
Like the word horizon, the word horizon, you've mentioned before, that means Horus rising, right? Isn't that what it means?
That's right. The sun was called Horus, and Horus in the morning was rising. So we call it where? On the horizon. Horus rising. And Horus rising was God's son, the light of the world. That's what we say about Jesus. He was the light of the world. Well, of course the sun is the light of the world. What else lights our world if it's not the sun? And so we use these terms and words and go to churches and never realizing it's Circe, and Mother Circe was a Greek goddess, and Mother Circe was known, and you ask anybody who knows anything about Greek mythology, who was Mother Circe, and they will tell you Circe was a Greek goddess in the Middle East that the Knights Templar brought back to Europe and started talking about and preaching and teaching about Mother Circe. Mother Circe became Mother Church. And today we're giving our money and our time and our lives and our property and everything else we can find to give to Mother Church, Mother Circe.
And the Circe was a god of... What I thought it was some kind of hypnotism, like mesmerizing or hypnotizing, or some music or something.
That's right. If you go back to the Greek mythology, Mother Circe was called Mother Circe, or today we call her Mother Church. But Mother Circe in the ancient Greek mythology was able to hypnotize people with magic. She would use candles and incense, and she would hypnotize people. And they would think she was so holy because she used candles and holy hymns and candles and all of this accoutrements, all of these things are used by the magicians. The
craft.
What am I trying to say?
I was going to ask you about the word craft. I was going to ask you about the word craft. Somebody in the chat room.
What was the word again?
Craft, as in witchcraft, or
the craft of the
craft of the Masons.
Yeah, well, that's a term for Freemasonry.
Craft.
Freemasons call their worship the craft. They're worshiping the craft.
Okay.
Anyway, it's a very big story about how the world came to be and who actually owns and controls the world of mankind. Because the people who own the world today are our masters, and we're not supposed to challenge them or to know anything about them. We just do what they tell us to do and go out and play your basketball and drink your beer and pay your taxes, and we'll let you know what you need to do. And just go out and do what you're supposed to do and be in compliance to the government and crawl on your knees like an animal. According to the magazine of words I was telling you about before, in that booklet of words that the government uses, it will tell you that if you are a man or a woman, you are not referred to as male or female. Male and female in a federal court is an animal. That's where you call your dog a male and a female. Cats are male and female. But humans are not considered to be male or female. They're masculine and feminine according to the law. So when you're born as a male, you are masculine, and you have that on your paperwork. You're masculine or feminine, but we, on our driver's license, insurance papers, on your bills that you get from the gas company, your credit cards, everything is male and female. Why? Because your name is in all capital letters. All capital letters means you're a corporation. That you will never have any piece of identification, your driver's license, your insurance company, your bills that you get from your oil companies. You don't, anytime you get a bill of any kind that's actual business, your name must be in all capital letters. That's the law. It never comes to you in upper and lower case. Upper and lower case, writing your name with the upper and lower case represents your physical body, your flesh and blood body. But you are a business. We don't give a damn about your flesh and blood body or your children and your wife and your grandmother. Commerce don't give a damn about you and your family and your mother who's starving and your father who's lost his home. They don't give a damn about you. They never cared about you. You are nobody. So therefore you are a male or female. You're just an animal. You're not masculine or feminine. And so once you realize that when the people that we call the Hebrews were in Egypt, they learned all about Isis, the goddess Isis. Then with the coming of Pharaoh Akhenaten, he instituted a new religion called the worship of the sun, Amun-Ra, the sun ray. And so the Hebrews learned all about Isis, and then they had to learn all about Ra. They had to learn about the sun god. And then when they finally got kicked out, they didn't demand to leave under Moses. Moses did not go to Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go." That's what you did. When you got fired from your job, you went home and told your wife, "Yeah, I quit today. I told them to go to hell. I quit." No, you didn't quit. You got fired. But it makes you look better if you quit. And so the Hebrews said that Moses went before Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go." And Pharaoh got so scared, he said, "Oh, okay, all right, don't hurt me." And so he let the people go. And then when the people went, where did they go? They go out north of Israel. They go out north into a place called Israel, which is Isis, Ra, and El, the three names of the sun god in the esoteric languages of the Middle East. Isis was the goddess, Ra is the sun god, and El was the planet Saturn in the Phoenician language.
Yeah.
So you have Isis, Ra, and El. Israel. Israel is nothing but Isis, Ra, and El.
It is.
The three names of the esoteric sun god.
Wow. That's incredible.
That's what you wanted to talk about, Mike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
when you want to talk about religion, I can tell you, you don't want to talk about it in public, because religion is probably one of the most incredible stories you have never heard. It's based on the world's religions today, the three major religions today, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, are based directly on the Hindu. Hindus gave us Christianity, they gave us Judaism, and they gave us Islam. Islam is right on the top of accepting from India, all the religion of India. And that's what Judaism comes from India. And the reason why is because all three...
Wow.
Say it again?
It's the oldest religion, isn't it?
All three religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, are all based on Islam. They're all based on
Hinduism.
India, the Hindu religion. And that's why today all three religions will tell you that they have their father of all three religions is Abraham. There was no Abraham. No Abraham ever existed in history. That's why they can't tell you where Abraham is buried, because he was never here to start with. It's like Jesus. Jesus was never an actual man who actually lived. That's why you can't tell exactly when he was born or where he lived or anything else, because he never was here to start with. There was no Jesus. So if you're waiting for Jesus to come back and save the world, then you're in trouble, because he's not coming back. Why? Simple, because he was never here to start with. It's very difficult to make a big comeback. What?
Is there a God, do you think?
God is simply dog spelled backwards.
Yeah.
Of course, dogs
I believe in dogs.
Best friend.
Yeah.
But do you believe in some sort of force, universal force of some sort?
That's right. Now you're finally getting to the bottom line. What you call God, what are you talking about? You need to define your terms. So if you want to talk about God, what are you talking about? Explain to me what you mean by God.
I don't like to use the term God at all, actually. I just believe that there's the all. Like an all... I wouldn't say... I would say some sort of an energy where...
I have no idea, to be perfectly honest. I hope there's a God. I hope we
I don't
get to go
think
somewhere
there's
else.
Something like it's to me. It's a source of energy, a source of knowledge, like Akashic records or something like that. That you can anyone can tap into.
You're right. Yep, and it's just amazing. People use the term God. They have no idea what they're talking about. You need to define your terms, because maybe what you're talking about, God, is not what I'm thinking when I use the word God. You know, if you talk about love, maybe I'm talking about sex. You're talking about love. Two different words, meaning two different things, completely different. Just like the United States and the United States of America. United States is a corporation. It's a company. And you work for the corporation. So if you're in the military, you're going overseas to the military, and you're going to be fighting for a corporation like General Electric or Ford Motor Company or Exxon Oil, that's all the United States is. It's a privately owned corporation. And that's why when you die, you are referred to as a corpse, because you are a corporation. When you're alive and when you're dead, you are a corporation which is defunct and out of business. That's why your name is in all capital letters. It's a corpse. You are a corpse. That's why on your tombstone, your name is in all capital letters, not upper and lower case, because you are a corporation. And if you're a corporation, this is a corporation. We're not living in the United States of America Republic. We're living in a communist, Marxist-Leninist, Soviet communist system. It's a corporation under communist law. And therefore, if you come across our border from Mexico at night, you are illegally coming into a corporation, the same as if you broke into Ford Motor Company's warehouse at 2 o'clock in the morning. You don't work at Ford Motor Company. You don't have the identification. You are illegal, and you're coming into a corporation's property, and you do not work for the corporation. You have nothing to do with it. And therefore, the corporation can put a lien on you. It's called a mechanic's lien. So if you come into this country without paperwork and doing it the right way and become a member of the corporation, they can put a lien on you. If I paid your house and you don't pay me, I can put a lien on your house. That's why today, if you come across this country, you come into California from Mexico, you are referred to as an alien. No, they have put a lien on you. They're putting a mechanic's lien on you, and so therefore you are a lien. You are an alien. A lien has been put on you. Like I said, we could talk for 10 hours, and I could tell you stuff that you never heard about the government you live under. And why do you have today, if you go back and watch the old Wild West days movies, the old John Wayne movies of the Wild West, and all the TV shows about the Wild West, Gunsmoke and all of those things, all those movies and television shows, they always show the cowboys wearing guns. The cowboys could ride into town wearing their guns, and they could go in a bar, and if you have a falling out with somebody in the bar, if you can't settle it like gentlemen, you can always go out in the street and end it now and get it over with. Go out in the street and draw on each other. It's called drawing on each other. And so you can do that legally, and there's nothing the sheriff can do about it, because you can, as long as you're an adult and you're armed and you're agreeable to it, and the other guy is an adult and armed and agreeable to it, then go out and finish it off. Go finish it. If you got a problem with him, go take care of the problem. And so the reason why is because when you were founded in America, the way America was founded, you were an American, not a U.S. citizen. You were an American, and as an American, you were a sovereign, meaning you were a king and a queen. The women were queens, the men were kings. And one of the nice things about being a king is you can carry a gun and do whatever the hell you want to do. You can have an army, you can have the military, you can have anything you want to deal with arms. So you can have an army to protect you. And you can decide to declare war on another king. The king of England could declare war on the king of France. That doesn't mean he's smart. It doesn't mean he's going to win. It doesn't mean it was a great idea. It just means he's king, and he can damn well do it, whether you like it or not. And
what do you think of war?
King,
Jordan, what do you think of war in general?
I think it is a great and wonderful way to make a big business, to make money.
That's what I think too.
Because somebody's got to buy all the guns, somebody's got to feed the troops, somebody's got to do all of this killing and the wars and transportation of troops and feeding them. That's a big business. Only corporations have that kind of money. And so when you understand the United States is a corporation, it's a company, it's owned by certain individuals, own the United States. And in point of fact, if they own the United States, they own you. And therefore, all land in America is under cemetery law. Most people have no idea in the world what cemetery law is. But there is a certain kind of legal apparatus called cemetery law, which means the country of the United States is under cemetery law. All buildings are concrete, and they're all the land in America is under cemetery law. And if you are working in a building or working on the land, then you are working for a cemetery. You're working in a cemetery. Therefore, if you're working in a cemetery and you're making money, you're under cemetery law, you are referred to as a zombie.
Oh, boy.
Zombies act like they're alive. And they're walking around making money and doing business, but they're dead. And so that's why you have movies now and television shows about zombies, because that's what America is. It's a land of zombies. We're dead in the water. We don't have any rights. You have no rights, no freedoms, no liberties, no nothing. You just confine yourself to whatever the government says you can do. You get permission, you sign the papers, you pay the fees. It's an incredible story about how the world really works. And when you make money, you put it in a bank. Why do you have to have a bank? It's called a river bank. River banks do what? What does a river bank do?
Control the current, the currency.
Of the currency. Because your money is called currency.
Yeah.
It's a flow. It's the ebb and flow of a current. The money comes in, the money goes out. The money comes in, the money goes out. Just like the waves in the ocean. The money waves come in, the waves go out. It's called currency because your money is a current. It's an ebb and flow of the liquid asset. Say that again.
That's really cool. I never even thought of that. The ebb and flow of the liquid asset.
That's right, liquid asset. That's what we say. Money goes through your hands like water. No, money is water. Under International Maritime Admiralty Law of England, money is considered liquid asset. It's the water. And therefore, if you can't pay for your house, it's underwater.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
And places get liquidated.
And
yes, liquidation.
All of our a liquidation. But all of our commerce is under shipping law because the law of the sea. There are two kinds of law: the law of the land and the law of the sea. The law of the land is the law of the custom of the people who live on a particular piece of land. That's why, according to the law of the land, you can do things in Russia you can't do in Spain. You can do things in South Africa you cannot do in America. Why? Because the people's customs are referred to as the law of the land. Why? Because the people live on land. So if you're going to go to a different land, you need to do what they do, live like they live according to their laws and regulations. If you don't like their laws, then go home and live under your own law. That's why we want people coming here to America to live under our laws.
But then there's
under the communist Marxist-Leninist system, they don't need to live by your laws. They are Marxist-Leninist Soviet communists which means they can do whatever the hell they want to in your land. They can come in and rape you and your kids and kill your wife and kill your children, do whatever the hell they want to, period. They're not under your law. They're not under your laws. That's why we're having all the criminality going around the world. It's all being planned. It's all part of a big system called the law of the land and the law of the sea. The law of the sea is the law of water, which is banking law. That's why if you...
That's not like maritime.
Pay for your house, it's under war. It's underwater. And therefore, why do captains call their ships? Captain of an airplane, the airline captain, or the ship's captain, or the rocket ship's captain, all ships must have a captain. Why? Because the ship is a female. All ships are female. Captains will say, the airline, talk to the airline pilot, they'll say, yeah, well, my plane, she's a good ship. She's done this and she's done that, and she's this and she's that. Why are ships she? It's because ships by law are female. Why are they female? Any ship is a female by law, International Maritime Admiralty law. Why? Because ships are female, because she carries the product. She produces the product. So that's why when you get married, she is a ship. And so she's delivering the product. That's what they do on a ship. They deliver products. And so the male or the man in the marriage is going to manufacture, while the woman is going to be in labor, building what he has manufactured. And so therefore, it's all based on the idea that the mother is a ship. And she pulls into a harbor where she parks at is called a berth. That's where ships pull into a harbor, they call a berth. And that's where when you're going to go place on a ship, you've got to go to the right berth. And therefore, when a ship, she pulls in, she's bringing $800 million worth of Toyotas or $500 million worth of TVs or whatever. Whatever she's bringing in, she's manifesting it. It wasn't here yesterday, it's here today. So you have to have paperwork on every single item because the company that sent those items want to get paid. So she is bringing in $800 million worth of Toyotas. Every single car has to have its own paperwork. It's called a certificate of manifest. And it's coming from your mother and her birth. So it's called a birth certificate. And so when you were born, you have to have a birth certificate. And it has to be signed by the dock because that's where the ship is parked, is at the dock. And so you get the dock to sign your birth certificate, and now you are a maritime admiralty. You are an admiralty, a maritime admiralty product. You came out of your mother's water. Her water broke. And when her water broke, you came out and you were delivered. And so she was in a delivery room delivering you to the corporation called United States Corporation. The parent patri, your parent is your mother and father is your government. And the state and the federal government is your parents. My God, how much Americans don't know. I could sit and talk till I'm blue in the face and I'm 80 years old. I'll be 100, still talking to people, trying to wake them up to what's going on the earth today. And people have no idea in the world and never been told.
And we thank you so much for this knowledge, sir.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Wait till you find out. Wait till you...
it's just confirming things that I've suspected all my life. I've suspected these things all my life, but until I heard you, it never really got confirmed the way and I was always wondering. But
Yeah, I know. Lots of people in America are wondering. They have no idea in the world. They've never been told anything. They've never researched anything. They don't know. They don't understand. They don't question. They don't have to. They don't have to do anything. You just shut up and do what you're being told to do. Cops will tell you. And why do you have police departments? You never had the police departments back in the old days with cowboys and cowboy movies. They never had police back then. Where did the police come from? Why do we have a police department today?
what does that word actually mean?
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, what does that word really mean? It means that there used to be something called the United States of America, a republic, where men could carry guns and do whatever they wish to do anytime they please to do. It doesn't mean you're wise or intelligent or smart. It just means you can do what you want to do. If you want to call some guy out in a bar and he's got a gun and you got a gun, well, go out in the street and finish it. You may find out it was a very bad deal for you because he's better at the draw than you are. And so, but let's find out. Go out in the street and do what you got to do and get rid of this problem. And so, therefore, what was I going to tell you? What was I going to say?
The police. You were going to tell us what police means.
Oh, yeah. So in 1871, after the Civil War, it was decided officially by the Supreme Court that the United States of America no longer exists as an entity on the world scene. So officially, according to according to our laws of America, United States of America no longer exists. We are now a corporation, a company. And therefore, since we are a corporation, we cannot make laws. We cannot make a law. Ford Motor Company cannot come out tomorrow and make a law that all Americans must abide by or go to jail, pay a fine, because Ford Motor Company says you must wear a certain color clothes or you must do this or you must do that. And we say, who the hell are you to tell me what I must do? You're just a corporation. You have to be under corporate law. We're not under you. You're under our laws, called corporate law. And so, therefore, when the corporation says you must do this, you must do that, they can't do that. Corporations cannot make laws. But a corporation like Sears or Ford Motor Company can have a policy. They have policies. You know, if you buy a pair of shoes and you take it back to get your money back, they will tell you, I'm sorry, this is not international law given to the earth by God. This is our policy. Our policy is we don't take the shoes back. We don't pay you back. That's our policy. Well, suppose you don't like the policy. You don't like what the corporation's policy is, and you're going to do something about it. Well, you've got to have somebody back up that policy. And so they're called police. The police back up the policy of the politicians. They're not the lawmakers, they're the policy makers. Because the United States government is now operating under law. They have policies. Therefore, they have to have police back up the policy of the politicians. The whole thing is a game. It's a company, a corporation. But if you're ignorant enough, you won't buy into any of it. You won't understand any of it, and they can control your whole life, telling you got to have a permit to do this, you got to have a permit to do that. You got to get a fine and a fee and pay a fee and a fine, and you have to ask permission. You know, my feeling, I don't ask permission of nobody. I do what I want to do. Anybody that don't like it, go to hell. So that's the way I live. I think for myself. I don't know if I ever told you the story about what happened to me when I was about 9 years old.
No, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, when I was 9 years old, I was going to Catholic school, and the nuns told us that tomorrow night there's going to be a special church meeting, a special church service for children from 7, 8, 9 years old children. It's a special church service for children. It's called confirmation service. And she told us that tomorrow night the bishop is going to be here to confirm you children as confirmed Catholics. It's called confirmation. Now, when she told us, when the service is over tomorrow night, the bishop, who is going to be very important, he's going to be here. He's coming from out of state. And the bishop is going to be here, but he may possibly, maybe not, but the bishop might possibly ask you children if you have any questions you'd like to ask him. Remember, if the bishop asks you if you have any questions, you keep your mouth shut. You don't have any questions. We'll tell you what you need to know, stupid. You don't need to question anything, so you don't have any questions. Keep that in mind. Well, the next night when the service was over, if the bishop didn't do that, he said, now that the service is over and you're confirmed Catholics at 9 years old, I will try and answer any questions you may have. So I stood up. I wanted everybody in the church to know who I am. I stood up and I said, yes, I have a question, Bishop. I said, my father works with torches, like a welder. And every now and then he'll let me play with a torch to show me how dangerous they are. So I know the danger of working with torches. But my question to you is, if an angel appeared to me, like the Bible says angels appeared to different people, if an angel appeared to me, could I take a torch and burn him? Would it hurt him if an angel appeared and I have a torch, if I hit him with the torch to fire him, would I hurt him? And he said, no. And I said, why not? He said, well, because there's nothing there to burn. An angel is a spirit. You can't even see a spirit, much less burn one. If it's going to burn, you have to have something that will burn, like wood or paper or plastic, rubber, something that will burn physically. You can't burn an angel because an angel is a spirit. You can't even see a spirit, much less burn one. And I said, well, why am I concerned about going to hell where my spirit will burn forever if you can't burn the spirit?
Nice.
And he
That's your story?
Yes.
Yeah, he looked at me like a deer in the headlights. Everybody else in the church, I could tell the mood of the church just changed. For the first time, adults come face to face with a 9-year-old who was born with a brain, who asked questions. And
I take it he didn't answer.
Nobody liked that. And he didn't know how to answer. And there was a Catholic priest, a red-headed priest from Ireland, was standing near me, and he said, you sit down and shut up. Yeah. And so after that, I started dropping Alka-Seltzer into the holy water. After that, I started dropping the Alka-Seltzer in the holy water and watching the adults flip out because they thought Jesus was coming back.
He was in the water.
I realized
looking for miracles.
Adults do not know anything about nothing. You ask as a child, 9-year-old, I would ask adults questions. All they would ever give me is their opinion. I'm not interested in their opinion. I don't give a damn about your opinion. I'm asking as a child to want to know. I don't care about what you believe. I want to know what you know for sure. And as a child, I would ask questions, and I always see that adults did not know the answer. They're just giving you some kind of a silly-ass little answer that they have come to understand because that's all they know how to do is just, yeah.
How did your parents deal with you? I have a feeling you might have had how did your parents deal with you when you were so independent at such a young age?
Oh, my mother always looked at me kind of screwy, like, what's going on in your head? And I said, I just got a question. But my question no adults can answer. So it appears to me I've got to go out and find out. I've got to go out in my life and dig and find the answers to the questions I have. And when I did that, I opened up a can of worms. Now you're in trouble, because now you're finding out things you're not supposed to know. That you are finding things you're not supposed to know, and no one's supposed to tell you. And now I understand where banks come from. I understand about money. I know what money is. I know what government is. I know what the religions are. I know what the Bible is all about. I know all kinds of things. My life has been filled with learning about all kinds of organized criminal activity.
The word government.
Incredible world.
The word government actually means control minds.
That's exactly correct. And it does. That's what government does. It controls your mind. It's all based on maritime admiralty. It's all based on the law of water. Well, where is it? And so, how do you do business on water? You do a ship. You do business on a ship. That's why if you're going to buy something too big for you to carry home, they will ship it to you. And therefore, you have all companies have a shipping department. And therefore, they're going to ship this to you. They'll have to ship that to you. And you will have a dealership, a printership. You have different kinds of positions in this life, and they're all based on a ship. You have friendships and dealerships and sportsmanship. Sportsmanship. There's about 1,000 of them. I can't remember all of them, but all the words that end in ship. And if you put a certain worth on something, you really highly value something. It's called worth. WORTH. Worth means the value of something. If you put a heavy value on something, it's called worth. And therefore, you have something called worthship. And we have a worship. No, it's not worship, it's worthship. Meaning you put a high value on something that's very, very valuable. So it's really worth something. So it's called your worthship. And so that's why when you go to church, you have a worship. No, not worship. It's a dealership, friendship, scholarship. I mean, all the different kinds of words that use the word ship. So the idea is, in this life, are you on board? Are you with us? Come on board the citizenship. So if you are on the board, you're in the citizenship. That means you ask permission. You don't have freedom. There's something called the Statue of Liberty, not the Statue of Freedom. You ain't free. You ain't never been free since 1871.
Well, how about we just get aboard the crazy train? What's wrong with the crazy train?
You're not free. You are not free. You are, as American, you are free. You're not an American, so you're not free. You are under something called the Statue of Liberty. We have liberty. Liberty means you ask permission. You want to take your father's car on the date tonight? You don't just go out and crank up the car and drive off. The hell's wrong with you? You don't do that. You ask permission. And if he gives you permission, you take care of what has been given to you. And you ask permission, and therefore you have liberty. So we're living under the Statue of Liberty. Liberty is holding the torch. The torch is the torch of Prometheus, the Promethean torch of liberty. Go back in Roman history and see who Prometheus was. Prometheus brought light to the people who could handle that kind of light from heaven. They were called Illuminati. Illuminati were illuminated by the torch of Prometheus. So when you see the torch of Prometheus and the Statue of Liberty, it's in a harbor. It's a maritime admiralty term. Prometheus is a maritime term used in the shipping world. Prometheus, he sits in the harbor, not on land. He sits in the harbor of New York. I think I'm about through.
I was just looking at a tarot card, the Magician, and it's got a guy holding his hand up with a candle. It reminds me of the Statue of Liberty. That's right. The Magician card, the tarot card of the deck.
That's right. And incidentally, everybody thinks the Statue of Liberty is a woman. No, it's not. It's a man. Statue of Liberty is a man, not a woman. Go back and look at it. Go on the web and type in Statue of Liberty man, and it will show you that the French Grand Orient Masons, the French Grand Orient Temple Masons, who own and run the Catholic Church, they're the ones who built and designed the Statue of Liberty for the Americans. It came from France, and it will tell you, and the article will say, Statue of Liberty is actually a man wearing a robe, like a judge wears a robe. Catholic priests wear robes.
Yeah, it looks identical
when you come out, when you graduate from university, you wear a robe. You're wearing a robe as a man because a robe is a woman's dress, and you are a man inside the woman. So you are showing your female self outside with your robe. That's why when a judge walks into a court, he walks in with a black robe and everyone rises. That's the same thing that happens in a Catholic church. When the priest walks out onto the altar, everyone rises. Why?
Yes,
because it's all international maritime admiralty law under Roman maritime admiralty law. It's under Rome. We are a Roman communist system in America. And that's why the people and the Democratic Party want to kill the president. They don't want him. They want to do whatever they can to get rid of him. Why? Simple, because he knows the name of the tune. He's worked with the mafia. He's had to work with the mob. He has to work with the organized crime syndicates in New York and New Jersey, the Sopranos. He has to work with the organized criminal element in America to be who he is and do what he does. You get that big where you own billions of dollars worth of property, you're going to deal with the mafia. You can bet on it. And you better know how to talk the talk and walk the walk. If they're going to help you, if they're going to do what you want them to do, you better know what to do and how to talk and how to deal with them. Well, he knows how to deal with organized crime. Why? Because he's the head of the biggest organized criminal syndicate the world has ever known. It's called the Roman Catholic fascist system. That's why Rome dominates America today.